We've already discussed tax as a way to tackle pollution. Whenever there is pollution produced by a producer, we can put an indirect tax equal to the size of the externality in order to make the price of a good to go up and the quantity demanded to go down to the socially desirable level. However, we saw that one of the problems that happens with this approach is that it may be difficult to quantify the size of the tax needed to reduce pollution to a desirable level or to identify the main culprit firm that are causing the problem. Furthermore, the cost of implementing and monitoring such a scheme is very high, making it completely infeasible. Another way to tackle this problem is to use tradable pollution permit system under which the government issues or sells permits to firms allowing them to pollute up to a certain limit. These permits are then tradable so that firms that are relatively clean in their production methods and do not need to use their full allocation of permits can sell their polluting rights to other firms whose production method produce greater levels of pollution. We can see clearly some advantages of this approach. The first important advantage of such a scheme is that there is an incentive structure for firms. Firms that pollute because of their relatively inefficient production method will find that they are at a disadvantage because they face a higher cost. Rather than continuing to purchase permits, they will find a long term solution to it, which means they will have an incentive to produce less pollution, which, of course, is what the policy is intending to achieve to begin with. By making this permit systems to become tradable, the government is using the market forces demand supply to solve the problem of pollution. Clearly, the firm that pollutes more will have to pay a higher price than the firm that is polluting less, and that can result in the problem to be solved as firms will try to be as efficient as possible. Another advantage that the government can have is that the overall level of pollution can be controlled by the system. And this is done because the authorities control the total amount of permits that are issued. Lower the amount of permit issued, lower will be the pollution level. Higher the amount of pollution permits issued, higher will be the pollution. So the objective of this policy is to control the overall level of pollution, and that can be controlled through the supply of the permits. Now, there are some disadvantages of the system as well. The first disadvantage of the system is that there is the problem of enforcement that can happen. For the system to be effective, sanctions must be in place for firms that pollute beyond the permitted level, and there must be an operational and cost effective method for authorities to check the level of emissions. If authorities cannot check the level of emission of each firm, then the firms can always go beyond the permitted level and the problem will not be solved. Secondly, it is not easy for the authorities or the government to decide on the appropriate number of permits to issue in order to produce the desired reduction in emission level. There will be a lot of calculation required and a lot of monitoring required in order to figure out the right amount or number of permits to be issued so that the desired level of emission level is achieved, which means it may not be straightforward exercise for the authorities to undertake. Another criticism that is unique to a permit form of regulation is that the very different levels of pollution produced by different firms may seem inequitable, as if those firms that can afford to buy permits can pollute as much as they like. So, rich companies or rich firms that have a lot more money and profitability will benefit because they can pollute much more than, let's say, another firm that is small and do not have deeper pockets to buy permits. A counter argument to this disadvantage is that firms that are buying a lot more permits and are polluting a lot more than other firms will then have a public image that will be tarnished because they have a reputation of heavy polluters. Maybe this possibility that they might have a bad image in public may strengthen the incentive for firms to clean up their production. So, when we look at these strengths and weaknesses, these advantages and disadvantages, we can say that on balance, such a system of tradable permits could be an effective method in regulating pollution. However, the problem of measuring how much the externality is, and therefore how many permits to issue will remain, and one have to find a solution for that.